everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lisa. I'm an Australian expat living in Amsterdam. Today, I guess, is a bit of a different type of Q&A video. It's a pregnancy Q&A video. I'm currently 35 weeks pregnant and I decided that it would be helpful to share my pregnancy journey and experience so far in the Netherlands as an expat. A while ago, I asked my Instagram followers to submit some different questions that they wanted me to answer in relation to pregnancy, and I'll be answering the most popular questions that I received so far. And hopefully this video is going to help you if you are planning to have a baby in the Netherlands, or you're just curious about what having a baby in the Netherlands is like. So let's get into the first question. Were you scared about getting pregnant in the Netherlands? When I first moved here from Australia, I remember adamantly saying, I absolutely will not have a baby here, and when that time comes, or if that time comes in our life, I would prefer to move back to Australia and give birth in Australia. Now I have been living here for close to 4 years. I see the Netherlands as my home. I feel very comfortable here. I have a few friends and acquaintances who have given birth in the Netherlands as expats and have had positive experiences. So that obviously played a really big role in making me feel comfortable with the idea of giving birth outside of my home country. And also statistically, the Netherlands has one of the best maternity healthcare rates in the world. Even if emotionally I had some doubt, I knew that rationally speaking, giving birth in the Netherlands was going to be a safe experience. The answer to this question is, in the past, yes, I was scared. Now I'm not scared. At least I'm no more scared than I would be if I were to give birth in Australia. What do you do when you find out you're pregnant in the Netherlands, or if you're trying for a baby? Just to give some quick context, I'm 34 years old at the moment. I have no underlying health conditions that I'm aware of, and this is my first pregnancy. So I think in a lot of countries, when you are trying for pregnancy or you have fallen pregnant, you generally would make an appointment with your family doctor. But here in the Netherlands, pregnancy is not seen as a medical condition. So in most cases, you don't actually need to inform your GP or your hausarts when you have fallen pregnant or if you're trying to fall pregnant. In my specific scenario, I thought I'm a little bit on the older side. Maybe I should just let her know that I am going to try for pregnancy. But my GP immediately was just like, you didn't need to make an appointment with me. When you do fall pregnant, all you need to do is find a suitable midwife center or midwife carer, and they will take care of your pregnancy for you. Unless your pregnancy becomes medical, then my GP would be getting involved. Otherwise, they don't get involved at all. As soon as I got a positive pregnancy test, I looked up a few different midwife practices around Amsterdam and around my area, and I booked introduction meetings with all of them. The purpose of those meetings is just to get to know them and to see if you click well with the midwives there. In the end, I chose a midwife center that was close to my home and my workplace. Unless your pregnancy becomes complicated or there are other medical necessities that arise in relation to your pregnancy, then you'll only be seen by a midwife for the duration of your pregnancy. If your pregnancy does become medical, then you will be referred on to a hospital team. Midwife appointments, they do start off as monthly and then they increase in frequency as your pregnancy progresses. In my experience, each midwife appointment is about 15 minutes long, with the exception of the intake appointment and the birth plan discussion appointment, which takes about half an hour. At each of my midwife appointments, it starts off with the midwife asking me if I have any questions, then they take my blood pressure, and then they check my belly and check the heartbeat of the baby and the positioning of the baby. Something I really like about this system is that I was able to choose whichever midwife center I wanted to within Amsterdam. In other words, this was not dictated by the postcode that I lived in, but of course in the end I chose one that was convenient, and I think that is an important factor to take into consideration because the midwife appointments do increase in frequency. So you want to choose a place that is easy for you to get to when you are heavily pregnant and needing to go in fortnightly or weekly. You don't want to choose a place that's really out of the way. Did you feel well supported by the health system during pregnancy? Overall, I have felt quite well supported, keeping in mind mind that really the only interaction I've had has been between myself and the midwife. I think if I had to pick one thing that I initially really struggled with, it is how chilled out and how relaxed all the midwives have been in relation to my pregnancy. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but I am generally a little bit type A. I'm the type of person who likes to get all the information up front as soon as possible, whereas the approach here is to slowly feed you this information incrementally week by week. Their reasoning for doing that is to not overwhelm you. For some reason, that has the opposite effect on me. I have personally experienced moments where I would find out information ahead of time and then question, why haven't they told me this yet? I would have preferred to know this now rather than later. The other thing I struggled with was, I guess, how different some of the public health advice was in the Netherlands compared to what it would have been in Australia. So one really clear example is the whooping cough vaccine, which here in the Netherlands they do recommend and encourage pregnant women to get. But in Australia, when your baby is born and you have family and friends visiting, it's strongly encouraged that those family members and those friends also get the whooping cough vaccine to just provide additional safeguards to protect the newborn. And when I brought that up with my midwife, she looked at me like I was crazy. I spent a bigger portion of my life in Australia and I worked professionally in a public health environment. So of course, it was difficult for me to completely let go of the public health advice that is drilled into you in your home country. What health insurance do you have? So at the start of the year, I changed my health insurance to Silver and Cross 2-star additional. So what this means is I have my basic package plus my supplementary insurance with Silver and Cross. Things that are covered for everyone under basic insurance and free of charge, meaning that you don't have to pay out of pocket for these things, are your midwife appointments, the standard ultrasound appointments, which they call echoes here, 10 to 12 week due date scan, which is where they determine the baby's due date based on its size, the 13-week scan, which is when they determine if there are any abnormalities in the baby, and the 20-week anomaly scan, where they evaluate again the anatomy of your baby, they check the size of your baby, the placental position. Also covered under basic insurance are any additional ultrasound appointments that come with a midwife referral. So in my case, I got a midwife referral for a 6 to 7 week early viability scan, and I also got a referral for a 28 to 30 week growth scan. I was only referred to those scans because of my personal circumstances. You can do those scans without referral, but then they will cost you out of pocket, and I think the cost is about 50 something euros per scan. The NIPT test, which is a genetic screening test for Down syndrome, trisomy 21, Edwards syndrome, trisomy 18, and Prenatal syndrome, trisomy 13. Basic insurance covers hospital birth if you have a medical indication, and also if your birth becomes a medical one that requires medical intervention. What is not covered under basic insurance? So as I said, any ultrasound scans that do not come with a medical or a midwife referral. Common one that people pay out of pocket for is the sex determination scan, which takes place I think around 14 weeks. This is seen as a fun scan because you can also wait a little bit longer until your 20-week scan to find out the sex of your baby. It doesn't cover Kromzorg or post-birth maternity care. This is where a maternity nurse will come to your home after you've given birth and they help you take care of your baby. Everyone in the Netherlands is entitled to at least 24 weeks of Kromzorg or post-maternity care across an 8-day period. Oftentimes you get more than that. This type of care is very heavily subsidized. So even though basic insurance doesn't cover the cost of Kromzorg, it will only cost you about €5.10 per hour for this support. There were also some things that were charged under my €385 health deductible. If you haven't already spent a total of €385 in medical costs, then you have to pay for those costs out of pocket. So in my case, my midwife took a blood test during my intake appointment. That cost me €63. I also had to do a gestational diabetes test. This is not a standard test that's offered to everyone in the Netherlands. I asked to do this test because as an Asian person, I am more predisposed to being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and this test cost me 29 euros out of pocket. A lot of people did ask me whether I would recommend getting the supplementary insurance or whether it's better to just stick with the basic insurance. Everyone's situation is different, so maybe I just tell you what my supplementary insurance gives me, because you do have to pay extra for that, and then you can make a determination on whether you think that's worth it for you or not. Things that my additional supplementary insurance covers are hospital birth regardless of whether I have a medical indication or not, Zog and post-birth maternity care, partial reimbursement for other pregnancy related costs, child and baby first aid course, purchase of a breast pump, they give reimbursement up to 75 euros, lactation consultant, reimbursement up to 80 euros, pregnancy classes, reimbursement up to 50 euros. I get up to 12 physio sessions, and also it covers the cost of a new TENS machine. Think about how important some of those reimbursement items I mentioned are to you. For instance, if you're considering having a home birth, then whether or not the insurance covers hospital birth is not really that important to you. How does maternity and parental leave work in the Netherlands? Birth parents or primary caregivers are entitled to 16 weeks of maternity leave on full pay, 100% pay. A minimum of 4 of those weeks must be taken before birth, which, if you choose to do that, leaves 12 weeks of maternity leave after birth. For the non-birth parent, you are entitled to 1 week of leave at 100% pay, and an additional 5 weeks of leave at 70% pay. In addition to this, both Gustavo and I are entitled to another 26 weeks of parental leave each. 9 of those 26 weeks are paid at a minimum of 70%, and the remaining 17 weeks of that leave is unpaid. Some companies offer a little bit more than the legal minimum of everything that I've mentioned so far. So for instance, Gustavo's employer, instead of 5 weeks at 70% pay, they're going to give him 5 weeks at 100% pay. They top up the difference. So essentially he'll get 6 weeks at 100% pay instead. And my employer, instead of giving me 9 weeks of paid parental leave, I get 13 weeks of paid parental leave. So make sure you read the relevant policy documents at your workplace, because it could be that you're lucky and you might get offered more than the legal minimum. Another thing to note is that you have to use up the paid parental leave within the first year of the child's life. If you don't use up that leave, those hours get converted into unpaid parental leave hours. I will leave a link in the description box of the government policy. The policy is in Dutch, of course, but you can use Google Translate to get an idea of what the legislation is outlining. What are you planning to do for your maternity leave? I spoke about this briefly in my Dutch workplace culture shocks video. In my experience, a lot of Dutch people, they tend to just take the 16 weeks of maternity leave off work. So in other words, they usually do seem to come back to work about 3 months after they have given birth. They then use up their paid and unpaid parental leave hours by taking 1 day off a week until it runs out, informally called Mama Dag and Papa Dag in the Netherlands. Coming from Australia, where it is culturally normal and accepted for the primary caregiver or the birth parent to take 9 to 12 months off work, the idea of going back to work just 3 months after giving birth seemed unfathomable, especially since I don't have any family here. I requested from my employer that I wanted to take my maternity leave and my parental leave all in one go. That equates to about 10 months off. I'm very thankful to say that in the end, this request of mine was granted. I will say though that because my request was seen as a little bit unusual, I did initially experience a little bit of pushback. As expats, this is not our native country, and it can be easy to doubt ourselves when it comes to the law and what our rights are. The only advice I have is, if you need to enter these discussions with your employer, be really clear about what the legislation says you are entitled to. Will your baby become a Dutch citizen? No, unfortunately, our baby will not become a Dutch citizen. You can only automatically become a Dutch citizen if one of your parents holds Dutch citizenship when you are born. Since neither Gustavo and I are Dutch citizens, citizens. Our baby is not going to be a Dutchie. Our baby is going to be an Australian citizen and also a Brazilian citizen. Okay, now I have to stand up a bit because something about being pregnant is you can't sit down for too long. Maybe I'll show you my baby bump. So I don't know if you can tell, but this is my baby bump at the moment. Quite large. I'm gonna take a walk and then I'm gonna come back and answer the remaining 3 questions.
5 minutes later.
I'm back now. Recommendations for workout classes. I did actually try a lot of different ones in Amsterdam. You might have seen in previous videos that I used to use ClassPass a lot. Through ClassPass, there are 2 different prenatal classes or studios that a lot of people go to. The first one is called Bluebirds. I really liked these classes. I thought they were very good, but they get filled out really quickly. So you have to reserve the classes really far in advance. They're not offered every single day, and the timings and the dates, it just did not work with my schedule. The second place I tried was Cosmos West. Again, I did this via ClassPass. I felt that some of the classes were really good and some of them were taught by people who seem to have no idea about prenatal yoga and Pilates. I tried out Mum in Balance. I personally found the exercises to be so good. The upside to Mum in Balance is that you know for sure all the classes are perfectly safe and effective for pregnancy. But after 2 months, I actually decided to cancel my subscription. The ladies who joined the classes were generally all Dutch. The classes would often be taught in Dutch as well. I am able to introduce myself in Dutch. I'm able to follow along the class in Dutch, but during the exercises, the other women in the class would start chatting to each other and making small talk and making jokes, and people would laugh. I wasn't at a level where I could follow along, and in the end it just started to make me feel a bit like an outsider. Another thing about Mum in Balance classes that I found very difficult is that all the classes take place outdoors, which, you know, during summer is great, but most of the time in the Netherlands the weather is so bad. I really didn't enjoy exercising in the wind, exercising in the rain, in the cold. Final recommendation that I have, and it's the one that I stuck to towards the end, a pregnancy and postpartum TV channel. There are so many videos to choose from for every kind of stage of pregnancy. The best thing is that it's all free. The classes I mentioned before are quite expensive. I love that I have total flexibility on when I want to do the class. It doesn't matter if it's raining and pouring outside. I can choose between a 15-minute workout or a half an hour workout. The only thing to note about this channel is that it really does help if you have previously done workout classes before. When you do exercise classes at home, it means there's no instructor to correct your posture or to tell you if you're doing something wrong. It's important that you are at least a little bit familiar with working out and doing different exercises before you do free YouTube videos. Where are you buying baby clothes and products? Probably the most common shops that I know of are Prenatal and Baby Dump, which is a really unfortunate sounding name. You can get a lot of baby products from IKEA, whether it be furniture, things for the nursery, or things like changing mats, towels for the baby, things like that. Hema or Zeeman for affordable baby clothes, particularly newborn clothes. They're actually quite good quality, I would say, even though the price tag is not that high. Amazon Netherlands and Bol, you can pretty much find anything you want on Amazon and Bol. For Gustavo and I, you know, right from the beginning, we both really wanted to buy as much secondhand as possible. One of the biggest pieces of advice that we received from parents is kids grow up so fast, especially newborn babies. There are things that you could spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on and they may not even like it. It's much better to just buy secondhand. You're going to save yourself a lot of money, and if they for some reason don't like what you've bought, it's a little bit less painful as well. For those who live in Amsterdam, I'm actually part of so many WhatsApp baby buy, swap, sell groups. They are usually invitation only. If you are interested in joining those groups, then just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you the links that will be relevant to you. But those WhatsApp groups have been the best way for us to find secondhand items because, you know, a lot of parents are very energy deprived. They don't have a lot of time to list things on Marketplace or on Facebook Marketplace. And we've found so many things that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to find if it weren't for those WhatsApp groups. So very, very useful. There are also websites where you can rent baby items instead of buying them. You may want to test something out before committing to buying it, or maybe you only need something for a few months and you know that you're not going to use it in the long term. The two websites I know of are babyloop.nl and tinylibrary.nl. Finally, the coolest thing about the Netherlands is that you actually get a lot of free stuff if you're pregnant. They call them here baby boxes. You can get one from Prenatal, from Kruidvat, and from Baby Dump. Oftentimes, your health insurance will also give you something called a crumb packet, which is filled with a whole bunch of things that will be useful for your birth, especially if you are going to have a home birth. But I think even if you choose to have a hospital birth, there are items in there that are useful. I got things like newborn nappies, maternity pads, baby food, baby socks, alcohol gels, soap, baby moisturizer, baby oil, baby shampoo. I will leave links for those boxes in the description box down below. Usually all you have to do is fill out an online form and then you just pick it up from the actual physical store. Can you please share what you bought to prepare for the baby? Oh my God, yes. I'm so happy to share this if it helps anyone out there. You can check out the description box to see the Excel spreadsheet that I put together of all the items that we ended up buying for the baby. In the spreadsheet, I list out the exact product that we bought, the brand name, and their product links. I'll also leave a link to my Amazon shop. Amazon is kind of amazing in the sense that they deliver things so quickly and you can get pretty much everything on Amazon. Obviously, I haven't had the baby yet, so I cannot comment on how useful those items were for the baby, but all the things that I listed in the spreadsheet were things that were highly recommended by our friends, by all the Dutch parenting communities that I'm a part of. So these are the things that you will probably see time and time again in other people's lists, and hopefully it just serves as a good starting point. I think maybe it's a good idea that after I give birth and after I have the baby, I make another video to tell you what kind of items I really, really loved. So I think I'm gonna end it here. I hope this answers some of the main questions that you had about what pregnancy is like in the Netherlands. If you did find it useful, please give it a thumbs up down below. It really helps my channel grow, helps this video get to more people. And please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make a lot of different types of videos about my life here as an expat in the Netherlands. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.